For the first portion of my assignment, I will be talking about the physics engine I have developed over the last week or so, which I will then be implementing in towards my roguelike style bullet hell game, and hopefully in the future a 3D OpenGL based rallying game as well. So the nice thing with this engine being that it will be useful for more than just one specific reason. So to start things off, what we're going to do is I'm going to take us over to our math function. This is where a lot of the functions that we're using for working with matrices and vectors will be calculated. Uh, Throughout this, it will be fairly messy as um, I haven't commented much of this as it is something I've been working with for a long time. This is something I've been developing all the way up through my first year with help from Scott Fielder, who is one of the professors who I am studying underneath. So right here, it's basically all just a basic math library, nothing too special. It really helps deal with vectors, matrices, which is what the main things that we will be using in this assignment. So you can see in our main, we have things relatively straightforward. We have auto ask, which is just the variable name I've chosen to name my assignment one, which is what everything will be built inside from. And then if we go to check this out, everything in the header is nice and clean. One thing that we don't do, or that I don't do, is I do not put code unless it is an inline function inside of the header file. So as we can see here, it's quick and simple. It only includes math, as everything else will soon be passed to it through other functions. So what we can do next is we can take a look at our timer header file. And this is just a basic class, the header and the CPP file that I had built to keep track of the state of the body that will be have different physics forces acting upon it throughout the mini simulation, which spits out um, a large graph of what had happened through every iteration of time throughout the simulation. So here we just have unsigned integers for previous ticks and current ticks. Of course, we have the constructor and the destructor for timer itself, and then some relatively simple things to get the timer going. Um, and as you can see, this is everything here being implemented, where we start with 0 previous ticks because it would be quite quite impossible to start from 0 and have previous ticks. Same with current ticks. 0 is of course our starting point. Um, Moving on from this, what we can see is we can look at how I build a window. Right now, this is something I am working on so that when I start to implement graphics and character movements in the next iteration, it will actually be able to use that. So for now, we're going to be ignoring our window class and our character controls, as that is not the main point of this first iteration. This is just me working ahead before I had actually gotten to this recording. So next, what we can do is we can go ahead and we can look at our body class. This is where a lot of the physics is going to be working from, as it's going to be dealing with specific body objects, in this case, just a singular one. So as you can see, we have all of our variables set up for our vector, including position, velocity, acceleration, and force. And then, of course, some basic, excuse me, some basic, sorry, something has been caught in my throat. So here we have our basic variables, which we will be using along with the vectors to calculate the forces that have been acting on the ball, how strong they will be acting, and when they will be acting. This next part here, obviously, is just our SDL surface, which is what we will be using when we start implementing graphics to the game, be it images through SDL or hopefully in the future fully fleshed out with OpenGL, to the point where it will even potentially be a 3D style game. There's one thing that I am contemplating right now, but I haven't settled. We'll have to see how the code goes. Is developing a bullet hell style game, but from the first person. The main challenge, of course, being difficulty in gameplay, considering you won't be able to see what's the patterns of the bullet if they are all on the same level flying at you in the same direction. So next, what we can do is we can go into our body CPP file. And here you can see this is where we initialize a lot of our, um, sorry, we initialize our 4 vectors, and we initialize a lot of our base variables as well. Going into update. Update is going to be our main loop that is going to check and apply the forces onto the body itself. In this loop, this is where, or in this method, sorry, this is where we update, as it says in the name, all of the forces, the position, and anything that is related to body. Um, And then, of course, apply forces where we will actually be specifically applying those things in unison with apply torque. I separated those up just because throughout the simulations, or as I actually start developing the game, I won't always need to apply the torque as I'm applying forces to the body as well. So it would just give the computer something less to check through if it does not if it doesn't need to read the extra lines of code. I'm trying to separate them so that when it does come into it, every little bit helps to try to optimize my work. Next, we can go into our assignment 1. This is where you're going to see the main structure of the assignment. So, of course, we start with an elapsed time of 0.0, and then it will be counting upwards from there. In assignment 1, you can see that we create our body. This is going to act like a ball, so to say, that we're going to be applying many forces to. Here you see um, we are applying our forces just to kind of give it that push that it needs to start the simulation off. And that is on create. It has its initial set of properties to it, and obviously on destroy, what we do is we delete the body itself, and we also set the pointer for body to null to free up any memory to prevent memory leaks. Which luckily basic this basic project does not have that. Here I was just this is a comment that I am going to erase. It was just me trying to test out what was the most efficient way to sort through these loops. Which are going to determine what's happening to the ball at which times and how to apply the force. And then the next bit is just a lot of us setting values and printing them out so that we can get a nice graph at the end. And for the most part, that's all we really have going for this assignment. This is me just starting to build the character control system again, but I haven't I had that in the wrong place, so we are going to leave that out for now. And all that's left is to show you what everything looks like when it prints out. That is odd. Did not do that in my test before, sorry. There we are. So as you can see, we have a nice clean printout of all the different forces with the labels right up here at the top, displaying every single thing that is happening to this body at every 1 tick interval in our timer. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll be back with you guys with a further update.